Well, Harris, the city council member who brought the gang situation involving this very apartment complex to light, says she's tired of it being downplayed. She says this is not just another gang in Aurora, and this latest incident proves something needs to be done.
I will not be silenced on this issue. I will continue to speak up. I will not stand for this human suffering. I don't care if you are here legally, illegally, documented, undocumented. You have a fundamental right to feel safe in this city.
Now, on Tuesday, police were called out to a local apartment complex on reports of a home invasion. That's where they were told that a group of people entered the victims' homes, where they were then kidnapped and tortured. Now, one victim was stabbed, the other had their fingernails ripped out. This went on for 4 hours until the victims were released after promising not to call the authorities. Aurora's police chief says the victims, both Venezuelan migrants, bravely called anyway.
I want to make sure that anybody, whether documented or undocumented, knows that they can call law enforcement and will respond. There is no place in this country, there is no place in this city where somebody should be victimized or mistreated based upon their documentation status.
Now, federal law enforcement sources tell Fox News ICE, Homeland Security, and the DEA are involved in this latest round of arrests. They suspect at least 14 of them are TDA gang members. Harris.
Jeff Paul, thank you. Incoming Trump border czar Tom Homan is sending a message to Aurora's police chief.
I just saw your piece on the chief of police standing up and talking about this issue. What's lacking is an ICE person standing next to him shoulder to shoulder. So he's talking the talk, but let's hope he walks the walk and hand these people to ICE when he's done with them, because we can remove them not only from the community but from the country. And if law enforcement officers don't help us do that, we're certainly going to do that starting January 21st.
You know, Kennedy, this was taken up a notch. I mean, torture. They're talking about dropping people off in the middle of the night. You heard that one lawmaker say they don't know where they are, pulling people's fingernails, tying people's hands behind their backs and beating them. I mean, this is gang warfare. That's what this is. I don't see how you confuse this with just regular police work.
Well, if they're going to bump it up a notch, then maybe law enforcement should bump it up a notch with how they charge these criminals. I mean, because it sounds like terrorism to me. You know, if you've got torture and you're trying to influence a political outcome, I think you could make the case for terrorism here. And also, I don't understand whether they're elected officials or law enforcement. Like, I understand, you know, sort of hemming and hawing on immigration in general. I get that, you know, and the idea that, you know, in general, immigrant communities commit fewer crimes than natural-born communities. Totally understand that. But this is not something where you're on the fence going, I don't know, I kind of think that we should protect these guys. You know, they're fun, they're so multicultural, they really add so much to the community. No, they are showing you they are the worst of the worst. They are displaying and advertising everything. These are the kind of people you should want out of the country. They make people scared. They make communities less safe. So make an example out of them, either by putting them in prison forever under terrorism charges or getting them out of there so, you know, people who are good can thrive.
Well, look, that second option only works under Trump. It could never work under Biden because they just come right back in.
Oh, President Harris is going to give them a really hard time.
Not this Harris. The other one. Oh, my goodness. So, Charlie Hurt, one of my main concerns, though, is, as Kennedy's pointing out, and as they make things harder for people that they move in on, this isn't just simple, I'm going to rob you type of crime. They are now terrorizing the entire country. Because if they come to, and by the way, they're in 50 states, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some part. I mean, Colorado's got a lot of them.
Yeah, and I mean, Colorado's 1,000 miles from the border, and you have to ask yourself, why are they there? Well, they're there because you have sanctuary cities in places like Denver that welcome this, you know, this flow of illegals from the border into the center of the country. And I agree with you. It's kind of amazing to listen to the mayor of Denver or the mayor of Aurora complain about the hysteria about the coverage of all this. And it's like, if that's what you're focused on instead of your residents getting, whether they're legal or not, getting mauled and terrorized and getting their fingers ripped off.
How bad do you want it to get?
Yeah, exactly. And then if the argument is, well, the police are making up the stories, then that's your fault too. Fix the dang problem, and the only way you fix the problem is to enforce the law. And if you're in the country illegally, you have to be removed from the country. And this is especially true for these criminal gangs. But it's almost like this whole woke mind virus where they want to be, act like they're all happy with open borders and sanctuary cities, that's more important to them than the basic safety of their residents.
Well, I call it economic tyranny because they're spending so much money and these people are not American citizens. But what you're saying is true, too. These communities that are hit first are migrant communities.
Exactly.
They're the weakest among them because they're already here, some of them not even legally trying to kind of make it, whatever they're going to do, and they know that. These gangs punish those people.
And there was an investigation done into this, one of the, I don't think it was this apartment complex, but another one. You know what people are paying to rent apartments in these places? But up to $2,000 a month. And these are people mostly Hispanic, and they have families, they have children, and they're paying, can you imagine paying $2,000 a month for an apartment? And this is going on next door to you? It's lawlessness.
So, Rosanna, we've seen a lot in this city. I don't live in New York City, but I cover it here, just as you cover the news here. Where do you think, seeing Eric Adams now, talking with Martha McCallum at 3 p.m. on the story today, where do you think this goes politically now? How much pressure does this put on the left?
I think the mayor is totally he already sat down with the incoming border czar. And some people, like on the city council, they're criticizing the mayor. They're saying he's got a lot to worry about. He's got, charges against him. He wants to be pardoned. So, of course, he's going to go along and do whatever is necessary to be on the right side of Donald Trump. But I think the mayor also has said from the very beginning, yes, he did welcome the migrants here. But then when he
told
realized
them that they could vote if they were here illegally too.
But then he changed his mind, and he realized how much it was costing the city in services and money and what we were giving up as tax-paying citizens in this country. But it is a problem when we start thinking that we're worried about protecting the people who are committing crimes rather than worried about protecting the people who are the victims of crimes. We have the TDA here, too.
Yes, we do.
There are reports that they have taken over the Roosevelt Hotel, which is the welcoming center. And by the way, there are reports that there are so many undocumented children without any parental supervision at the Roosevelt Hotel. We've heard about reports, Charlie, you've heard about these reports, where they've actually making these kids do criminal activity to pay them off. So that because they have no money, so they make them go into Times Square and rob a few people, whatever. They're putting them to work with the TDA.
Yeah.
Well, and you scare the bejesus out of people when you hear about the torture because you think, there, but by the grace of God go I if I run into one of these people.
That's right. And look, you are right. Indentured servitude is a hallmark of these transnational cartels. Look, going back to that councilwoman in Denver, I agree with her, but I argue to take it a step further. She says everyone has the right to feel safe. No, everyone has the right to be safe.
Yes.
As American tax-paying citizens here. And the reality is that gang affiliation is an existing enhancement. And the reason that these guys can torture like this, that they are torturing like this, two reasons. Number one, that is a playbook fair and square of these transnational cartels, of these absolutely hideous, originated gangs from Central and South America. And number two, it's because they can get away with it, because they feel emboldened. The reality is that rampant torture, that horrific crimes, the indentured servitude of minors, the pattern of rape, the kidnapping, the torture, every crime under the sun, the brutality mixed with the cavalier nature of it is all because they knew that they could get away with it thanks to this administration and local city councils and governments like Denver. And the reality was, because of those gang enhancements, that was sort of stamped out a long time ago, before the world turned woke and before it became a war against ourselves, meaning against ICE and the federal government actually trying to enforce this. So it is abjectly terrifying. But like we keep saying, there's a new sheriff in town. But again, the collateral damage are those lives lost, all of those beatings, all of that injury, all of that broken community, all of that fomented, horrific climate right now. That's the collateral damage.
Yeah, I've had law enforcement sources tell me, too, that it is kind of a hang a shingle out for initiation. How much pain, how much torture that you dish out there are people in this country who will join, sadly.
And we had, a pattern of that. We had a history of that here in New York City. Remember in Chinatown, depending on the decade, there's a history of essentially sort of foreign-born transnational cartels or gang affiliation that come over here and essentially try to operate how they did in the old country. We saw it with the Sicilians, right? And the whole point is, once the Americans came and said, not on our watch, not under our laws, then it stopped. We deterred them. But essentially now, here we are again, and no one's deterred.
33 days until Inauguration Day. We will see that be one of the first things that Trump will address.
Yes. Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.